And growing food is going to be like printing money.
Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers, John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in to another inspired conversation. Today, we're welcoming back a very, very inspiring lady. She has been on the scene for many years, teaching people with zero experience and maybe even a little out of shape, maybe a little older, everybody who wants to, how to become more self sufficient, how to grow food, how to raise livestock, and how to be independent from a system that is crumbling in front of our eyes. Please welcome with me Marjorie Wildcraft, the founder of the Growth Network. The
Hey,
Grow Network.
Jonathan. Yeah, the Growth Network. The Growth Network. Oh my gosh, that sounds almost like a tumor or something, but
The Grow Network. I'm
yep,
sorry, Marjorie.
it's all good. It's all good.
Welcome back. Welcome
Thank
back.
you. Yeah, thanks for having me on. We got the situation is deteriorating more and more and more rapidly. And as it deteriorates, it's very hard to even keep track of basic stuff, much less like some of the real important stuff. And so, yeah, we were going to hit what's going on, and then talk a little bit about some really good solutions.
You know, Marjorie, we are definitely, and a lot of people are definitely, and I don't mean to point fingers, but suffering from the boiling frog syndrome. It's like when you're in it, you can't see the madness or craziness, or as long as you can still go down to the grocery store and get stuff, even if it's extremely expensive, and even if the quality is so bad, but you can get it,
Yeah.
right? So you have this feeling of, oh well, it's not that bad, but it really is horrible, and unlike anything we've seen in generations. And we don't have good food in the grocery stores anymore. But I mean, you sent me a few articles and headlines that I had seen before. It's just when you see them all stacked together, you just notice, holy shit, there really is there really are things going on that are very, very worrisome. So what is one thing that really sticks out to you right now that you feel is endangering the food security?
I think it's all of it combined, and how they're just hitting this little one here. Well, in each region, they're big, but like they're hitting this region, they're hitting that region, they're hitting this thing, they're hitting that thing, and it's big, but it's not big enough to really grab anybody's attention. But as you said, when you put it all together, you're like, oh my God, there's an attack on the food supply, right? And it's 1 million acres now that are on fire in Texas, and they've destroyed 1 million acres of grazing lands, which also included granaries and barns and facilities. And then, the initial death toll is several tens of thousands of cattle. That's going to go way, 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 way higher because there's not going to be grasslands for the ones that remain.
It's too much of a vast distance to just move cattle. There's nowhere to move them. 1 million acres. That's incredible.
Yeah. And boy, I've lived through the Texas drought through the 2000, well, it accumulated in 2012 with the fires and all. It was a 4-year drought. And, all you could do was sell off your cattle. People that were trying, we were trying to keep our small little herd alive, and we were like trucking in hay from like Oregon or something like that. It was unbelievably expensive. I mean, so I think what you might see from this in the very short term is beef prices might drop down for a bit, because so many ranchers are just going to sell off. They're like, this just not. We just know this is not going to make it, and we can't afford to feed these cattle. So there may initiate, and if that's so, which I think it will be, they're not going to regenerate those herds quickly. And yet it's just it's just an attack, right? And then there's, have you kept up with the list of food processing plants that have just had bizarre fires or?
In the hundreds, but we're talking major food processing plants that are systemic in their importance, right? And if you have hundreds and hundreds that go down like they have in the past few years, we know the kinks that are already in the food supply chain. But like I said, for some reason, it doesn't translate until the shelf is empty. But
I,
it can be any day now. And the problem is they might not even keep the shelf empty. They just might put some artificial crap on there that isn't food, and it's going to absolutely destroy your health, your immune system, and everything else, right?
well, actually, yeah, everything that's in a grocery store now. You used to be able to be a perimeter shopper and pick up something, but none of that is really has any nutritional value or at the worst case, organic stuff is less toxic than the other stuff, but it's all bad for you. I mean, it's not real food at all. It's there. And I have a whole love-hate relationship with this absolute crushing of the food supply. And that is, yeah, none of that really is food. But then on the other hand, by doing it this way, they're forcing a situation where a lot of people, millions and millions and millions of people, are going to be severely stressed. So, have you also been watching? I think the other thing that's really amazing to me is what's going on in Europe with all the farmer protests.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think that what most of the European farmers saw was that the Dutch farmers, they basically just like took them out of business through the regulations and then started taking their land. And the rest of the European Union farmers said, we can see, and their backs are up against the wall. They know their livelihoods are being crushed. They see it. They have no other thing to do. So they're not only, people talk about, oh yeah, they're spraying shit on the building. I'm like, that's not the biggest part of what they're doing. They're dumping grain out of silos. They're, destroying highways. They're not going to be planting this year. And the fundamental thing that I think they get, which is horrible at its core base, is they know they can't do anything about the government, but they know that if people are starving like their countrymen, then they will topple the government.
I think there's more than just the farmer situation to this movement, which I think is beautiful because the small business owners in Europe have joined that, and the middle class sort of has joined this movement because it's under severe attack or almost destroyed by now. By the way, it's kind of like the U.S. So there's a lot of movements that have kind of banded together around the farmers. It's this whole social reengineering. It is the farmer situation. It is them being regulated out of business. But it's the whole social reengineering that people are finally starting to connect the dots and going, there's something very sinister going on here, which leads me right back to the same point that we keep trying to hit home, Marjorie, you and I, in our respective fields, is the system is crashing. It will be down, and it won't be something we can rely on for quite some time to come, and shouldn't rely on until we rebuild it in a way that's actually serving us again.
Yeah.
And the answer to all of this is more self-reliance in any way, shape, or form you can. And I want to stress one thing: even if you live in an apartment, even if you have like very limited capabilities, but you have some, do what you can with what you have where you are. That's also kind of your motto, you said. So
Yeah.
what are some of the things that people can do right now, start doing right now, little things that will help them?
Well, we've done a couple of shows on growing food, and I definitely want to recommend people go to that free webinar, DIYgroceries.com, and just look at how easy it is to grow half of your own food if you have access to a backyard. I thought I'd riff today on 10 things that I'm doing, and these are either free or very inexpensive, and they're just ways to prepare. Now, I've already got backup food supplies. I've already got a garden. I've got rabbits. I've got all kinds of things in place, definitely. These are 10 things. I'm constantly preparing, right? Because it is happening. It is happening this year. Everybody on the planet this year is going to be majorly affected.
You deserve the truth, but big tech does not want you to hear it. So we built our own Inspired platform on theinspiredchannel.com. To watch the full video and more, just click the link in the video description or the pinned comment.